You've heard about Bitcoin, right? Digital currency, kind of revolutionary.
Yeah.
You probably even know the name Satoshi Nakamoto,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's mysterious creator.
Right.
But have you ever heard of Bitcoin White Paper Fundamentalism?
It's a mouthful, I know, but it really gets to the core of a debate that's been going on in the Bitcoin community.
And that's what we're diving into today. But to get it, we need to go back to the beginning, the 2008 Bitcoin White Paper.
Imagine this. 2008, financial crisis is in full swing. Nobody trusts the banks anymore. And then this document pops up online, like a manifesto, laying out this vision for a digital cash system that's decentralized, free from government control.
So this white paper, it's like Bitcoin's founding document.
Exactly. It's the DNA of Bitcoin. It lays out the core principles and how it should actually function.
Mhm.
And for a lot of those early adopters, it's like sacred.
Which brings us back to this Bitcoin White Paper Fundamentalism. What does that even mean?
Basically, it's the belief that Bitcoin has to stick to that vision, exactly as it was written in that 2008 white paper. Any changes, any adaptations, it's like straying from the true path.
It's interesting, this tension between preserving that original idea and letting it grow and change. Like, should we modernize a historical building or leave it as it is?
It's a real dilemma. On one side, you have the fundamentalists, right? They see the white paper almost like a sacred text. Any change is messing with Bitcoin's core values. For them, Bitcoin is finished, complete.
And on the other side,
You have people who believe that Bitcoin needs to adapt to stay relevant, to keep up with the times. They see the white paper as a starting point, a base to build on.
so can these two sides even exist together? Or is this debate going to tear Bitcoin apart?
That's what we're going to find out. We're going to dive into the arguments from both sides and see what's really at stake for the future of Bitcoin.
This whole thing about Bitcoin needing to evolve, it kind of reminds me of how we see technology in general.
Totally.
Like, we don't expect to be using the same phones or computers from 10 years ago, so why should Bitcoin be any different, right?
Right, and that's where this debate gets even more interesting. One of the big curveballs for those Bitcoin white paper fundamentalists is this whole store of value thing.
Yeah, like digital gold, I've heard that.
Exactly. Because the original white paper was really focused on Bitcoin as like a peer-to-peer cash system, for business stuff, not just an investment.
Right, right.
The idea of holding Bitcoin as an asset, like a hedge against inflation, it wasn't really a thing in the white paper.
So how do those fundamentalists square this digital gold idea, with their view of Bitcoin?
Well, for a lot of them, it's a real sticking point. They say this whole focus on Bitcoin's price, its future value, it's a distraction from the real purpose, that digital cash for everyday transactions. They're worried that if Bitcoin's seen as just an investment, it'll never be widely used the way it was meant to be.
I can see that. But then again, doesn't the fact that people are investing in Bitcoin, holding it as a store of value, doesn't that also give it more value overall? Make it more likely to be used more widely?
That's what the other side argues. They say this whole store of value thing is actually driving adoption. More people get interested, the value goes up, and that makes it more attractive as a form of payment.
So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing then.
Yeah, kind of. You've got market forces, technology changing, even just how people see Bitcoin, all of that's mixed up together.
And here's another layer, right? There's actually evidence that maybe even Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's creator, he might have been open to changing his original vision.
It's true. I mean, he wanted to create a system free from control, right? But in the years after he published that white paper, there are signs that he was considering modifications, improvements, which is kind of surprising given how some people see the white paper as like gospel.
It does make you think, right? If
Yeah.
even Nakamoto, the guy who came up with Bitcoin, if he was open to tweaking it, maybe clinging to every single word of that white paper is missing the point.
It's a really interesting twist and makes you wonder, what does this openness to change mean for Bitcoin's future? Is there a way to bring these two sides together?
Well, to figure that out, we need to look at how this debate is playing out in the real world. We'll talk about those alternative Bitcoins, the challenges from regulations, and the actual impact it's having around the globe. So this whole debate about the white paper, it's not just theoretical, right? It's actually having a real impact out there in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're
Absolutely.
seeing it play out with the rise of these alternative versions of Bitcoin, the forks.
Right, like Bitcoin Cash. I've heard the name, but what's that all about again?
So imagine this. You've got these people, they believe so strongly that Bitcoin has strayed from that original white paper vision that they go and create their own version.
Really?
Yeah, one that sticks closer to what they see as, Nakamoto's true intentions.
So they're like, we're taking Bitcoin back to its roots.
Exactly. And they often use that whole digital gold narrative as proof that, the main Bitcoin has kind of lost its way.
It's like a battle for Bitcoin's soul, almost.
Kind of, yeah. But here's the thing that I find so interesting, even with all this debate, all these different versions. Bitcoin, the original, it's actually being used in the real world.
I guess in my head, it's still mostly like investors. People buying and selling, not really using it to buy groceries or anything.
There's definitely a lot of that true.
Yeah.
But we are seeing more and more actual adoption, especially in places where, traditional banking is tough or maybe the system's not so
Oh,
stable.
where? Any examples?
Well, look at El Salvador. They made Bitcoin legal tender back in 2021. You can use it to buy anything there, from a cup of coffee to, I don't know, a house.
Whoa, seriously, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And it shows you how Bitcoin can actually give people more power,
Yeah.
especially in parts of the world where they might not have easy access to financial stuff.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
And that's a big argument for those who really believe in Bitcoin's potential to, like, revolutionize things. They see it as a way to level the playing field, especially for developing countries.
It makes you wonder then, why isn't it more common here? In the US, I mean, or Europe.
A few reasons. Regulation is a big one. Like in the US, if you use Bitcoin to buy everyday stuff, you might get hit with capital gains taxes, which, let's face it, most people don't want to deal with that.
Taxes make everything more complicated.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
But there's also this constant effort to make Bitcoin easier to use.
Yeah.
Simpler transactions, lower fees, that sort of thing.
So it's a work in progress.
Always. And that's what makes it exciting, right? This technology, it's always evolving.
So as we wrap up here, what does it all mean? What's next for Bitcoin?
$1 million question. I think this whole debate, the white paper, sticking to the original vision versus evolving, it shows you this tension that happens with any technology that's really groundbreaking.
Trying to preserve the past while also moving forward.
Exactly. And there's no easy answer. Do you cling to how things were or embrace the unknown, even if it means things change in ways you never expected? That's the thing about the future of Bitcoin. It's still being written.
It's true. None of us really know what's going to happen.
And that's kind of the beauty of it, isn't it?
Right.
It's up to all of us to decide what role we want this technology to play in our lives.
Well, you've definitely given us a lot to think about today. Bitcoin, it's clearly more than just like a digital currency. It's this whole phenomenon, this technological experiment. And yeah, it's shaking things up. Whatever happens next, it's going to be fascinating.